So, if you, I don't know if this is going to work fine, but we're going to try. We're going to give it a go. I've never done this for a MOOC before. I've done this a few hundred times for other things. So we're going to pretend for a minute that each table is a mini course team designing 1 week of the MOOC. Okay? Yes, that raises concerns about whether it's week-based or whatever, but for the purposes of today's task, just for those purposes, we're going to pretend that each table is the team designing that 1 week. Okay? Have you got people to work with? Yeah? Do you want to work as 2 separate teams, you 2 at the back, or are you happy working separately? Oh, you're going. In that case, you're a team, and I'm not sure about the colleague here, whether she wants to join you or whether she's going to or what. But you're a team for now. Another team here, another team here. Yeah? We're going to take a pragmatic storyboarding approach to this. It could be done in many, many different ways. I'm going to show you one way of doing it. And you might follow that, or choose another way of your own to storyboard that 1 week. First, we're going to start with your week's learning outcomes, and for that you will draw on the strengths of your team members to devise the learning outcomes for that week. I brought my learning outcomes from our group here. We got them here, and we could, if I was in that group, I would be working to these learning outcomes, or maybe 1 or 2 of them. Probably 1 or 2 of them. No, I'm not giving it back to you yet. Okay, so you're going to have to decide which 1 or 2 learning outcomes you're going to work towards. There's a question mark as to this bit here. As you realize, this is a key driver for the students, of course, in a normal course. Probably not a key driver here today for the MOOC, but it's there, and it's got to be aligned with the learning outcomes in one way or another. So it is there in the storyboard. A usual approach that course team members take at this point is, okay, let's map out the content, right? Oh, so we will cover the following. Well, I invite you to take an alternative view of that. Do not start with the content just yet. Think about those learning outcomes and think about what elements of formative or summative assessment it could be in a normal course, or in this case, what forms of scaffold you would want to provide. Imagine the red tick is some kind of scaffolding, and the blue tick, if this was a formal course, would be a summative piece of assessment. But let's think of what we need to achieve those, and therefore what kind of activities would provide the elements to draw the resources together to achieve those learning outcomes. So this is a very, one of the many ways of doing this, very task-based approach to achieving those learning outcomes through activities that would provide the scaffolding to align those learning outcomes with assessment if there was any. Only then, in order to do these activities, are we going to think about the resources. In order to draw the resources in, we will imagine, for example, that activity 1 on the left there uses a video and a PDF file and produces a bit of audio which itself is input for the next activity, and so on and so forth. In the end, the black arrows show a suggested learning pathway through that week. Okay? So this is generic, and this might not apply exactly in the way you're thinking, and this might be all wrong if you so wish. But it is one way of storyboarding 1 week of the course. And of course, I've used 3 activities. You could use 1, you could use 2, you could use 5. The activities are not projects, they are small, brief activities that students could tackle in 20 minutes, in half an hour, and you are going to tell them that, how long they are expected to devote to each of those activities. Because this is only a week for the purposes of today, not the whole course, not the whole MOOC, you're going to really focus on 1 or 2 learning outcomes only. And you're going to probably shrink all of this into 1 activity, or perhaps 2 at the most. you're going to bring in meaningful resources to that. So for instance, if you know that Gronia is going to do, for example, learning design theory, and she has a few resources that she brings into that activity, she'll certainly build this with those resources in mind. She will be explicit about them and will then move on to the end of the week having achieved the desired outcome. So, what's your task? Translate that into your week. We have not discussed what each week will bring. That's part of the fun. You will decide that. We have not discussed the overall picture of the MOOC. What are the program level outcomes? We have not discussed that yet, but we have done activities today which might give us a clue as to what those outcomes could be. And again, for the purposes of today, for the purposes of this activity, each course team, each table will decide on the learning outcome or outcomes, the activity and the resources for that. And then you're going to have to share that very briefly in about a 1 or 2 minute presentation to the rest of us, which of course will be recorded, and that will be it. First stage then, about the next 10 minutes, drafting your storyboard for your week.